From the OUTV Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, California, this is Brief News Brief, a brief look at today's trending news topics, proudly combating the thought police since 2016. Here's your host, James Heaney.
I'm James Heaney, and this is your Brief News Briefing. The immigration war on the Mexico border continues to escalate. The country is in a moral outrage over this new zero-tolerance plan that's forcing ICE agents to rip children away from their parents, kids as young as 2 years old. The parents are being sent to jail, and the kids are going to baby jail. Basically baby jail. Call it what it is. Holding cells, space blankets, it's baby jail. The new zero-tolerance policy is flooding these facilities that hold immigrant children, and now they're having to move kids into military bases. That's where you usually keep soldiers and army people. Now it's for children. It's for babysitting. It's where we're putting our new baby jails. Yesterday, the Trump administration selected a Texas location for a tent camp to house migrant kids. I'm not a survival expert, but my best guess is it's not a good time of year to be forced into a tent in Texas. In a shocking defense, Sarah Sanders and Jeff Sessions have been quoting Bible verses to justify the cruel and inhumane treatment that they are imposing on asylum seekers. There is bipartisan support within Congress to pass legislation to end the cruel hardliners from treating fellow human beings in such a disgraceful, un-American fashion. It's hard to say if Congress will be able to write and pass a bipartisan bill that Trump will sign to end the inhumanity. Trump is happy to place the blame on Democrats for his new zero-tolerance policy and has signaled that he will sign no bill to end the new separating kids from their parents policy until everyone has agreed to let him build his damn wall. Children be damned. It doesn't matter. The New York State Attorney General's office filed a lawsuit on Thursday taking aim at the Donald J. Trump Foundation. The charity's been accused of sweeping violations of campaign finance laws, self-dealing and illegal coordination with the presidential campaign. Is anyone surprised? The lawsuit seeks to dissolve the foundation as well as bar the president and any of his children from ever serving on a non-for-profit organization again, which leaves us all wondering, does that include Barron too? That wouldn't be fair. That kid's way too young to be included in all your shenanigans. This lawsuit was the conclusion of a 2-year investigation of the Trump Foundation after Trump threw a phony military fundraiser instead of going to a Republican debate just before the Iowa caucuses. It was later discovered that the $6 million he said that he raised didn't exist, and the $1 million of his own money that he said he was donating never actually got to any veterans. This prompted investigations into his charity organization, which concluded that he was raising money and using the money to pay for his own presidential campaign and legal fees. That seems like his signature move. They were so sloppy about the improper use of charity, there is an actual paper trail of his campaign manager, Cora Lewandowski, directing its charitable funds to political activities. The Attorney General's referrals to the IRS and FEC for further investigation into additional white-collar crimes committed by Donald J. Trump could take a long time. Look at how slow everything moves. But this is a sign that some prosecutors out there are trying to stand up for the rule of law and that no one, not even the president himself, is above the law. The Justice Department Inspector General's report has proved the nation has become addicted to unreality. The IG's long-awaited report came out yesterday and has served to validate any confirmation bias you may have already had. Mostly, the report said that Comey really stepped in it. He should have never stood before the American people and shunned Hillary Clinton in the July 2016 announcement that the investigation was closed and there was nothing to the email thing. He should have just reported there was nothing to the email thing. Yet he felt extreme pressure not to appear that he was biased for Clinton. So he went out of his way to try to look impartial by breaking FBI standards. But he didn't look impartial. He was playing into the GOP handbook by shunning her. Because the GOP was foaming at the mouth against Hillary, that statement seemed like middle ground. But it wasn't. The middle ground was just telling the truth. The email scandal was a nothing burger. It always was. And then again, the FBI standards were broken because of extreme pressure, and he released that he was reopening the email investigation days before the 2016 election. Not cool. Not what you're supposed to do. This helped Donald Trump win the presidency. Yet FBI standards were kept in place for the Russia investigation that was already going on within the FBI. That investigation was not released prior to the election. Trump has the balls to come on TV today and say this report, which criticized Comey and has nothing to do with the Russia investigation, has totally exonerated him on the Russia thing. Why? Why? Well, there is a text message exchange between two FBI agents, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. I'm not sure if I pronounced Peter's last name right. I apologize. They were investigating the treason of Russia helping a presidential candidate. Lisa texts Peter frightened. Will Trump really be president? And Peter says, no, we will stop him. That's pretty bad, right? But then the report goes on to say that those FBI agents took no further action to stop Trump from getting elected. But if you were looking for a smoking gun, that someone investigating Trump and knew about the dossier and knew about all the shady Russia stuff that we've been learning about, that same investigator was not a Trump superfan and even less of a fan of him taking over the country, well, then you got it. You got just what you were looking for. Someone at the FBI didn't want him to be president, but took no actions to stop him. Busted. Donald Trump confirmed today that he is going to impose 25% tariff on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods. The tariffs will affect more than 800 products and are due to come into effect on July 6th. Trump went on to warn China that if they retaliate, which they have vowed to do, the U.S. will impose even more tariffs. Mr. Trump said the tariffs were essential to preventing further unfair transfers of American technology and intellectual property to China, which will protect American jobs. Stock markets dropped in Europe and the U.S. after the announcement, with investors concerned about a possible trade war. Well, I would suppose that's the way you start a trade war. Many economists and businesses in the U.S. say the tariffs are likely to hurt some of the sectors the administration is trying to protect, which depend on China for parts or assembly. Farmers in Middle America could be the hardest hit. The Motor and Equipment Manufacturer Associations, which represent car part makers, called the tariffs taxes that hurt U.S. companies and jobs, put jobs at risk, and negatively impact consumers. The White House said that the measures shouldn't hurt consumers. Shouldn't? That doesn't necessarily mean wouldn't. Pointing out that the items such as televisions that were included on the draft list had been taken off the list. It's going to allow companies to apply for exclusions from the duties. Will the tariffs just hurt China, or will there be a backlash that hurts Americans too? Buckle up. The trade war has started. We've said it before and we'll say it again, but now we're saying it because it's official. Paul Manafort's in jail. I mean, I don't know why I'm excited. I just guess I love the flavor of justice in my mouth. The judge ordered Paul Manafort to go to jail today over charges that he tampered with witnesses while out on bail. He awaits trial on federal conspiracy and money laundering charges next month. He has been allegedly contacting witnesses in the case in an effort to get them to lie to investigators. Now, I don't know if you know the law, but that's considered a major no-no. It's considered witness tampering. The judge said, "This is not middle school. I can't take away his cell phone. If I tell him not to call 56 witnesses, will he call the 57th? Trump responded that Manafort worked with me for a very short period of time. When asked whether he might consider pardoning former aides and advisors, Trump answered, "I don't want to talk about that." Surprise, surprise. I wouldn't want to talk about that either. Prosecutors alleged that by committing a new crime while on release, Manafort violated the terms of his home confinement in Alexandria, Virginia. Manafort, 69, has pleaded not guilty to all charges in what prosecutors say was a broader conspiracy to launder more than $30 million over a decade of undisclosed lobbying for a pro-Russian party in the Ukraine. Manafort is scheduled for a trial in July for related tax and bank fraud charges, and he has another trial in September over secret lobbying. The hope for Mueller is that with all of these charges adding up for Manafort, he might flip on Trump and might offer insight into the Mueller Russia probe. Prosecutors have said that Manafort's role in the Trump campaign and long-standing ties to Russian-backed politicians, financiers, and other myriad investigation into whether any of them served as back channels to Russia.